Hi, ghost hunting fans! If you enjoyed Family Spirits, the adventures and evidence of Gallo family ghost hunters, you're going to love Family Spirits 2, Purpose and the Paranormal by Bobby J. Gallo. Paperback and Nookbook available through Barnes & Noble. More adventure, more evidence, more ghosts. Materialize your copy today.
Okay, everybody, and welcome to Creepy Conversations from the Castle. Once again, please disregard those little technical glitches just before I came on, but that's neither here nor there. This is going to be a fun show tonight, but before we get into the show, I do have a little bit of housekeeping to do. As we do on every show, we give our audience our latest subscriber counts. So as of right now on Facebook, we have 5,100 subscribers. On Twitter X, we have 7,215. And on YouTube, drum roll please, we have 33,180 subscribers to the channel. So we are growing leaps and bounds. At some points, as much as 200 a day. So we're really doing well. And we're broadcasting right here from Castello Gallo, which is a 100-year-old castle in Roseto, Pennsylvania. And this has a few ghosts itself. But maybe they'll appear, maybe they won't. I don't know. I do hope that everybody did get a chance to watch our last episode, which was a solo episode I did on the ghost of Jacob Marley and Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol and all the significance behind that. But if you didn't get a chance to see that, just hop over to YouTube and watch it. It's really got a lot of great feedback. I do want to dedicate the show tonight to a friend of mine, David Taylor, who passed recently, very unexpectedly and at a very young age. He was the podcast host of Our Haunted Lives on Paraflix. And I will tell you, folks, he was the best in the business. Nobody will ever be as good doing a podcast as David Taylor. I had the honor of being on his show. And believe it or not, he was supposed to be one of my next guests on this show. So rest in peace, David. You will be truly missed. Okay, so now I have to say this, the title of this show obviously is Creepy Conversations from the Castle. So right now we are going to bring on one of the most uncreepy people that I have ever met. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we met and how she made her way onto the show. So I'm going to bring her in from the green room right now. Ladies and gentlemen, psychic, medium, and astrologer, Danielle Taverna. And there she is.
Hello.
How you doing, Danielle?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Now, there's a lot of people that run in our circles who already know you. You are, every time you pop up on our Facebook feed, you kind of light up the room. And you definitely have a tendency to do that. Now, you are a psychic medium and an astrologer. I'm just like Mr. Paranormal Investigator, but I do have one gift. And it actually has to do with people like you. I can tell intuitively whether a psychic medium is one of three categories. They're either genuine, they want to be genuine, or they think they're genuine. So those are the three. Okay. I had no doubts. The second we were friends on Facebook before we met at the Hollow Paracon in Boonton, New Jersey. And you had a booth right next to Renee and I. And the second I met you, I can tell, I could just sense the energy. You had this positive energy. It was very, very engaging. And I could just tell that you were the real deal. And that's always been one of my gifts. And I'm very, very selective when it comes to psychic mediums. And I got to tell you a funny story. When you were sitting there, Renee really wanted to buy a reading from you, but she didn't do it only because there was another psychic sitting on the other side of us. And she thought if she did that, she was going to like offend this other psychic. So in the future, we're going to get you to do a reading for Renee because she definitely wants that. But now tell me, how many do you do a lot of shows like this?
Over the course of the last 6 or 7 years, like I've done like maybe like one or two a year.
Okay.
I haven't done one with this many people watching, so that's different. Um, but yeah, I've done a couple of interviews over the last few years and podcasts, shows that people have an interest in, the
Right.
afterlife, the paranormal, the strange, the unusual, all the things.
Yep. Now we have a mutual friend, Larissa Rex,
Yes.
and I'm going to get her on the show too. I just got to get a check. I got to get through my, like I told you how I did this before the show. I kind of go one to another, but we definitely have to get her on the show for sure, and her husband as well. But you are a psychic medium. Now, there's so many different types. There are people that are clairaudient. There are people that actually communicate with spirits, but some that just get impressions. What type of medium are you?
So that's a very loaded question,
It
but
is
I will answer it. Um, you know, it started for me audibly.
clairaudience.
Yeah, like audibly outer ear, which is from what I was made to understand, kind of rare. And it was very scary to me because
Mm-hmm.
I was hearing voices. And it was at a time where my health was really at a kind of like a crisis point.
Oh,
I
wow.
would say, prior to that, I was a kid. I remember having psychic dreams, dreams about people who had passed away. They'd come with information. So that had been going on pretty much all throughout like my childhood, teens, and then early 20s. When I hit my mid 20s, I was facing some really tough health challenges. And that's when I started to meditate and get into holistic wellness.
Mm-hmm.
When I kind of went into that arena, that's when this segued from like my sleeping hours to my waking hours. And one of the first things that I experienced was outer ear hearing. And that was really scary. And I, at the time, I contacted some people that I knew that did this work that I had had readings from randomly over the years. And they were like, no, you're not crazy. This is how this works for some people. And then from there it kind of segued, like it went from, I'm still clairaudient, but it's inner ear. Then it goes to like a knowing. I could smell things. I just feel things like if someone's talking to me, like I just know the answer. I don't know how I know, but I just know.
Right.
Um, so I guess it kind of like just over time, like it kind of just transforms. And like we get all, I think all mediums, like we have stronger clairs than others.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me it's the hearing and definitely just the knowing.
Yeah.
But some people, they're very strong with seeing, they're just very strong with like feeling, senses, things like that. I think everybody has everything, but I think we just kind of, for some of us, certain things are more like this is my how it comes really.
Yeah, and I believe that everybody does have it to a greater or lesser degree. It depends on whether or not it's developed. I every once in a while I hear it, especially when somebody will say my name and I'll turn around and nobody's there. And it was clear. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just heard it. Somebody said, Bob. I'm like, what? And there's nobody there. And one time my most notable memory of it happening to me was when my wife had an attachment. We weren't taking proper precautions on an investigation, and she had more than one in her head. And I got really angry one night, and I told them to stop and come into me, leave her alone, and they tried. And I'll never forget. All of a sudden, all these voices in my ear. And you're right, it was terrifying. And then I all of a sudden knew what my wife was going through. Now we've gotten rid of it since then, but it can happen to anybody, I believe, because I don't have strong psychic talents. I really don't. But there are those times. And it's unnerving when it does happen. And I remember you saying something on Facebook to the effect that or you might have said it to me. I don't know. But you said something to the effect that when you're doing readings, you have all of these spirits trying to come in at once.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that's fascinating.
So that is actually like where it can get like overwhelming
Right.
when you have a room full of people, or you're doing a reading out in the open where there's hundreds or thousands of people behind them. There will be spirits, at least for me, that will show up, yes, for that person in front of me, but they'll also have people who are waiting because they know that their loved one is coming next, or two or three people behind that.
Gotcha.
And that's where it gets like confusing, because it's like, oh,
Right.
can you take Jeff? No. Can you take Jeff? No. Okay, he's for you. Yeah. Okay. So,
It's so fascinating for me, but I know other mediums who have the same talent. Now, what are you experiencing at that point? Like what's happening? I want to get inside your head here for just a second and find out what you're experiencing when that happens. Are you hearing them? Are you seeing them? Are you feeling them? What's happening?
well, typically when I do like readings, when the person sits down with me, mediumship is usually what jumps out first. So I'll see who's around them. Like I can sense like energies. Like I could feel a male energy who's older. I can feel a child who's a female. And then I'll go a little bit further and be like, okay, guys, come closer, meaning like the spirits.
Right.
Let me see you, let me hear you a little bit better. And then I'll start to get like names. Like, okay, they're tied to this name John. Okay, it's either they're the John. Oh no, your husband's the John. So this is for him. This person's for him. Okay. Like that, I feel like I just kind of see their energies around, and then from there, like I'll start to hear information about them, and that's how it just kind of rolls out from there. And then I'll be like, whoever it is, just if you're going to give me a lot of information, just please do it one at a time, so that way
Mm,
I'm not, you can wait here. There might be three or four of you guys, but you're the one I'm
right.
talking to right now. It's just you and me right now. So sometimes they don't listen, but for the most part, they do. But
That's it's just amazing to me. Now, I've heard from some mediums that you have to practice how to shut it off. Like when you're in your personal life, there's ways to like kind of block it out because you don't want them coming through 24/7. That would drive you
no,
crazy.
no. And you know what? It's weird. I find that when I'm busy and I'm like out doing stuff where I'm like, my mind is really occupied, like let's say I'm going to the grocery store and I'm focused on whatever I got to do, that's when like they know like, all right, she's busy. But if I'm sitting doing a one-on-one conversation with somebody at my kitchen table, they're absolutely opportunistic and will just
Hmm.
start giving me answers as this person's talking about whatever it is they're talking about.
Wow. Wow. That's really cool. Um, that's amazing. Now, what when you sit down with somebody for a reading, what's like the cadence? Like what exactly do you do? Like how does it start out? What's the progression of a reading for you?
Um, I would say I usually start with mediumship, unless the person comes in with like an intention, like I want to talk about this, like, my job or my moving situation. Usually, typical reading, come in, I'll feel who's around them. We'll start with mediumship. I'll tell them, what I'm getting, what messages I'm getting, and then we'll roll into their life. And that in that place, like I'll say, what area do you want to focus on? And then
Mhm.
we'll just go from there. Because I also like to be intentional too. It's their time. I would like for them to get everything they want out of the reading, or how much validation or guidance they would like from whatever particular area they choose. But some people are just like, no, just tell me whatever, and then we just roll from it from there.
Kind of like this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
um Now you've been doing this. Do you ever go on any paranormal investigations?
um Yes, I've done a couple. I've done some investigations. I can't say I've done a lot of professional ones. Like I'm
Hmm.
not someone who has equipment. Like I'll typically go with other people who have their equipment and I'll join in, which is really exciting because I like history. So I like locations just even
Hmm.
based on that. I'll just go
Right.
just to sightsee. Um, and I do a lot of cemetery investigating. As you probably see, I'm always in a new cemetery. There's
We
something,
are big on that. We've done a lot of cemeteries.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, why do you do it? What's your motivation for going to a cemetery? And I'll tell you mine.
So there's something about like, so this is just another very loaded question, but a good one. When I lived in Hoboken, this was about 10 years ago, and this is where I started to have a lot of health stuff go on. And this is where I
Mhm.
started to kind of go down my holistic journey. This is where the location that I started to hear outer ear.
Mm.
What I found out that building was an old brownstone Knights of Columbus with
Ah,
next door to it was a graveyard. What's there now is a flower bed. And there's hundreds, if not thousands of people because there's a church on the opposite side of that brownstone. The building itself is probably part of built over that graveyard. Um,
wow.
so I know where remains are,
Oh boy.
there's activity.
Absolutely.
So graveyards, cemeteries, obviously there's a difference. Graveyard behind a church,
Right.
cemeteries, a cemetery.
Very good.
I find them fascinating because I feel as much as, yes, these people are at rest, I do feel like they're alive. Like I feel like there's a sense of life there. I enjoy history. So for me it's so many, it's multifaceted, really.
Right. Right. And I mean, we started doing cemeteries. I actually have a book by Fiona Broom called How to Hunt Ghosts in Haunted Cemeteries. Is one of my favorite paranormal books. And I liked it so much, I had her do the forward to my first book. So I became such a big fan.
That's cool.
But she cited exactly what you did. It's a place where you can actually see history, experience history. But more than that, for me anyway, I found out that cemeteries are very active because, there's a lot of paranormal so-called experts in air quotes that say, why would a ghost haunt their earthly remains? Well, very simply because in a lot of the old Protestant religions, they believe that the soul should sleep in the grave till the second coming of Christ.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
So, yeah, some call it the sleep, but the reality is like you sleep and then you are resurrected. And if you look at a lot of the old colonial stones and you read them, it alludes to that in a great many cases. So I believe that it's not that they're sleeping, it's that they just feel that that's where they need to be till the second coming. So we've always experienced that when we investigate a Victorian era cemetery or earlier, they're more active than the more modern cemeteries where people accept the fact that they have to move on after death.
Right.
Now, this is just a theory, but there's a lot of people that agree with me on this. And sometimes just going to these older cemeteries, it lights up just because of the mere presence of the living. Because, let's face it, after the grandkids go, nobody visits these graves anymore, except for the guy that puts the flags on the graves of the veterans.
It's so true. It's so sad, but it's so true.
So the mere presence of the living sometimes lights these places up because
I
now there's
agree.
somebody not only remembering them and visiting their grave, and in our cases, we actually cleaned up a few. There was a spirit that was very upset that there was beer cans littering his family plot.
Oh God.
So we cleaned that up for him. And, at that time, Renee was using the dowsing rods and she was really exercising her psychic gifts. And I was using the equipment, which you call devising. I noticed that from the hollows. Did you device the basement? Yes, I devised it. I'm like, that's cool. I never.
I don't know what these things are. I really don't.
I thought that was
I
a
find them
cool.
interesting though.
I thought that was a cool way to put it. But yes, we have lots of devices. That's for sure. And there's a whole logic and science behind all of them. But yeah, no, cemeteries. I am with you. I think cemeteries are one of the best places. And to me, one of the very best reasons to investigate a cemetery is that it's free. I hate to say it,
Yes.
but you can just
Said it.
go in and do it when we know that these places that are charging so much money to investigate these places that I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Some of these places, I mean, $150 a person to go into wherever, with 10 other people, by the way, where
Yeah.
you can go into an older cemetery and I'm telling you, you'll get just as much activity and you can just walk in. So,
True.
other places, of course, be like battlefields, and we've done lots of battlefields because, and there's a lot of residual there, but there's a lot of intelligence there as well.
Yeah, that's a fascinating spot. I just went to Gettysburg this summer. I've never been there before until
Oh,
this.
wow. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God, this is wild." Like it's such a wild, like vibrant energy place. I mean, that's like a huge open graveyard for sure.
It is. It is. I mean, you're looking at 50,000 people that died horribly. They didn't
Yeah.
even die peacefully. I mean, they died these tragic deaths. I mean, if they didn't go quickly, they suffered horribly. I mean,
Yeah.
and so there's energy there, that just goes on and on and on and on. And some people don't believe in residual energy, but I always say, it's like those little triangles, when you used to, bang them in band practice in high school and these go ding. And I always tell people, I say, when does that ding stop? I say, on a quantum level, it may never stop. So that's the whole theory behind residual energy in a place like Gettysburg. It gets absorbed into the surroundings and it still may be playing, even if it's on a very small and again, possibly quantum level. So there's a science behind this. I think as time goes on, we're proving more and more of this. NDE, which I've had one, um, is probably the most scientific way we are proving the afterlife, but there's other ways. I think what you do is fascinating. Sylvia Rossi, who was a good friend of mine who I interviewed for my second book and is one of the main reasons I got back into the paranormal, does work with police departments,
Yeah.
finding missing people. So they're certainly not going to work with somebody they don't believe is genuine. So,
Right. Of course. I think locations have imprints. This is something that I'm finding because like New York, for example, and I always put up stuff about New York. So I'm from New York. New York has death ongoing, like
right.
on every corner where there's millions of people. But what's interesting is the energy's moving. So tragedies that have happened there are being replaced with people's good, bad, indifferent, neutral experiences at all times. So, yes, if you were to go to, like, say, Hart Island, which is like stagnant and static, where there's not much going on in terms of life, you're going to probably pick up a lot. But if you're going to pick up something from, when Henry Hudson sailed over in the middle of Times Square, that energy is just so it's
Sure.
disintegrated in my opinion. Whereas when I came here to New Jersey, what I noticed, because there's not as much volume and there's not as much like, oh, this structure, oh, there's thousands of people, oh, there's, cars passing through here. It's more like peaceful, where these remains, if you will, whether it be a cemetery, a haunted home, they're more likely to stay haunted because there's not a lot of life to transmute that energy.
Right. Now, what do you think about passing spirits on?
You know, this is something that I don't really know how that works from like a location wise, because anytime that I've been in a location, um I haven't it's usually been a one and done. So I don't know if like they're regulars there. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I kind of was a chicken up until recently, when in the last year I decided to kind of go out to locations and stuff like that.
Right.
Um other than living in like a haunted location myself in Hoboken. Um All I will say is that where there remains, I don't feel the spirits do move on to a great extent if it's built over. Whereas if you go to a cemetery, yeah, there's remains there, but they're in the open air and there's nothing like really like impeding that.
Right.
There's an intention set that they're there to rest. So yeah,
Yes.
you can call them in on a spirit level, but if you're in a home that's having activity, like let's say like, upping the ante, like poltergeist like activity,
Right.
to me, that's more of a, I don't know, some people I guess call them earthbound spirits. To me,
I
this is
do.
just like a disgruntled spirit that wants to stay here for whatever reason that might be. And I feel like there's got to be something to this. Either something in the they either died in the house, but even more so, like I said, or their remains are buried in the yard or something like that.
Right.
In some cases, I don't think that in some cases, some of those spirits, I don't think know that they've passed. I think that that's rarer than, like, than it's probably put out there to be, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, through EVP, we've gotten a lot of communication with spirits that can't move on. How many spirits have asked us for help? I can't even count, but Renee and I both agree that it's really not our job to move these spirits on. We don't even know how to do it. I think it would take more than just, hey, do you see the light? Go through the light. You're supposed to go to the light. And then, people say, oh, I just passed a spirit on. And I'm like, I don't think you did. I just
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't
I
want to
get it.
bust.
I don't do it either. I don't do crossing
Okay.
over with Danielle Taverna. I feel like that's more of a job for say like Roland, because he's more of like the exorcism, land forgiveness, like actually moves energy.
Right.
I'll tell you who's there, but
Right.
I don't want to move them
And
personally.
that's we feel the same way. I mean, always tell people, they go, "Oh, do you do resident?" I says, "We don't do residential cases." Because that always involves trying to get rid of the spirit, which we don't do. But my job is just to prove they exist. That's all I want to do. I want to gather the evidence and say, look, whether it's a ghost or not is up to you, but there's something here, and
Yeah.
it's not physical, and it's intelligent because it's communicating. That's what I'm looking for. And we've gotten tons and tons of that stuff. I mean, I tell people that I pass the point of belief along, because people will say, do you really believe in ghosts? And I'm like, I passed the point of belief a long time ago. I mean, I, I, I know. And if people are like, well, I'm not sure. I'm like, because you haven't experienced what I've experienced. I've talked to countless entities, and we call them entities for lack of a better description, because whether they're interdimensional aliens, which I don't think they are,
Mhm.
people will tell me that all the time, or
Yeah, I'm
maybe
not
they're,
sure about that one.
no,
But yeah, I
no.
respect people's beliefs, but
I
I get
respect them, but from my experience, they're ghosts.
yeah.
And for tens of thousands of years, they've been ghosts. This is
Yeah.
what they've been. All of a sudden, they're
True.
no, 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 no. Oh, I know, I understand. You like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you like string theory, and you want to believe in Star Trek transporter stuff, and that's where you're taking this. I get it, but why can't we just look at and call them what they are? We know they're there, so that's where I stand on it anyway. I don't know about anybody else.
I mean, we don't know, and that's the other thing too, is that like no matter how much we think we know, we really don't. Like, there's so
No.
many things, like, I don't understand fully the afterlife, even. Like, I'm even wondering, like, so where are you guys coming all from? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
it usually feels like they're coming from a place that's a lot more lighter than, say, Earth. I feel like Earth is very heavy in comparison to where, the spirit world comes in. But
Sure.
no one knows, like, really, like, there's really not a lot of contacts that we can give with absolute certainty because this is not an exact science. Um,
Correct.
I feel like having experiences of knowing like people are okay, or this genuine sense of like this angelic presence. Like, I've had these experiences that I'm like, this feels good. Like, this feels like love. But do I know like what they're doing in their day to day when they're off hours or I'm off hours. No,
Right. Yep. And I believe, and this is just based upon years of investigating, that they're not allowed to tell us certain things. I think
Mhm.
we're allowed to know just enough, but I think they're not allowed to cross the line. And the
Agreed.
reason I say that is because every time we're on an investigation and we get a solid communication stream going, whether it's through a ghost box, EVP, an EMF detector, as soon as we get to these really profound metaphysical questions, like, is there a God? Is Jesus the Son of God? Is there a heaven? Is there a hell? Is there a purgatory? As soon as we get into any of that, communication stops. They'll love to talk to us about trivial things, but as soon as you get heavy, they're gone.
Yeah, I believe it.
And it kind of makes me think that there's a higher power involved that says, we're going to give you just enough because you're sincere. You got a little bit of that Apostle Thomas in you that's a little doubting, And so we're going to give you just enough to know that we're here, but we're not going to give you too much because you still have to have faith in a certain amount of things. I don't know. How does that sound to you?
I agree with that. I see it in readings. I mean, we only get a certain snippet of what's going to happen. And this is going into, like, let's say, reading future stuff, right?
Right.
I really enjoy communicating with other people's loved ones, and I do enjoy giving people information of stuff that's going to come, or let's say answers that they want to know about, like the present or validation or whatever. But there's certain things that will be told that are definitive. I do think we do come in and sign up for certain things, and they're unavoidable, and usually that's out of our control, right? But there are certain things that we can, I do think, change and shape the outcome, like let's say how we get there. I don't think everything is set in stone. So I
Right.
believe we're given, maybe they're going to give me information where this is the most likely like space you're going to go in on the path that you're on now. But if I'm talking to you and you walk out of that reading and you take a hard left from what I told you, you've taken on a different path, and you might still end up at the same point potentially, but you're taking a different road to get there. And I don't think anything is, we're not given anything because you wouldn't learn any lessons. None of us would gain wisdom
Correct.
if we gave, if we got every single piece. Even with my own life, like I ask questions sometimes and they won't tell me, and it's very frustrating.
My point. This is my point. Exactly. And I don't think they're allowed to do it. I just don't. I mean, we don't know what
It's
the higher,
unethical.
it's unethical, and they don't know we really don't know what the hierarchy is on the other side. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
And we could only guess. And just lifted up my arm. Got my cat on there. So anyway, anytime I'm wearing black, my cat's all over me.
Same. I get it.
Yeah, there you go. It's just fascinating, and your honesty is awesome. I mean, I love how honest you are about what is possible and what is not possible, at least at this present time. I think that's phenomenal. And it goes a long way to showing your genuineness, because I've known some mediums that they know everything. They know, they'll tell you whatever you want to hear.
Yeah.
And
Nobody knows everything.
right.
Only God.
That's true. Boy, ain't that the truth? And I know a lot of spirits, like, there's also this notion that once you cross over, you have all the answers. That's absolutely not true, because we've communicated with a lot of spirits that have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe when you get to a certain level, I guess.
Well, there's like soul growth. Like, I mean, some of
Yeah,
us, and this is not to interrupt you at all.
not at all.
This is where I started to study astrology. That piece comes in where I read people's charts, because that kind of gives me like a and that's usually the last thing I do in the reading, because once I know someone's astrology, I can form an opinion. Um but, like I save that for the end, unless it's just a straight astrology reading they want. But
Right.
that's information that kind of shows me like, oh, you came in to experience these things. These are the likelihoods of the things that that your soul was willing to go through here. And some of us sign up for a lot of things and are like, wow, I must have been drunk when I signed that contract. And then some of us sign up for very little things. And
Right.
some of us are newer souls. Some of us are older souls. Some of us are like, just give me the rest of whatever the hell's left, because I'm out of here. And I'm not coming back next time. So I do think that that piece is kind of where it marries it all up for me. Where I'm like, okay, this person's got some stuff, and this is going to be a very heavy experience for them here, but they're going to gain a lot of wisdom, and this might be their last transit to the earth, whatever. I would
Right.
tell
Right.
somebody that. But there's a lot to be said where that piece comes in, because I do think our souls sign up for stuff. Like, there's certain things that are unavoidable that I think we signed up for no matter what. And I think there's other things that are more free will.
Right. And I'll tell you, and it's just been very recently that I really jumped on the whole reincarnation bandwagon. I do believe that we can come back. And the reason I believe that is because my deceased mother in a dream told me. And
I
yeah,
believe her too.
yeah, she passed, she passed a few years ago. And, every once in a while, when I ask her to visit me because I miss her, she'll come in the dream. And the last time it happened, we were sitting across the table from each other, and she never had a girl. She always wanted a little girl. And she says, the next time around, I want a little girl. And it was just, and sometimes it's just so real that you just can't deny it. It's just not a dream. It's exactly what it is. Because I believe they could come to us in our dreams, among other ways.
Oh yeah, that's like the easiest way, because you're already
Probably.
like in that unconscious state for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. And I also say, take any dream where you're in a place that you've never been before, and look at the landscape, look at the buildings, look at the interior of the houses. Are you telling me that your brain could create all that in a split nanosecond? I don't believe it. I think you are in a different dimension when you are
Mhm.
in that dream state. I truly do. It's a different reality.
Yeah.
And the physics are different, but it's real. It's real nevertheless. It's like in the Harry Potter movie when Dumbledore goes to Harry Potter at the end, he goes, of course it's happening in your head, Harry, but why would that make it any less real?
Right. It's true. I agree
Right?
with that too. There's altered states of consciousness. I think, if you've ever experienced astral projection, it's very scary. Sometimes it happens when we're sleeping. In some cases, some people experience that falling sensation.
Right.
That's kind of similar to like when you're falling asleep. Like sometimes you do experience like this falling sensation. That can be like a form of astral projection, or like the
Mm,
body's spirit or consciousness trying to leave the body while the body stays in rest and sleep and do whatever. I think sleep paralysis is tied into that. I think certain people are more predisposed to that happening on a regular. I've only had a handful of experiences of astral projection, and I was terrified. I was like, put me back, put me
right.
back.
Right.
But people do this. I mean, people meditate to with that intention. People practice this. It almost becomes like lucid dreaming. They're braver than I, but I do think that our consciousness is we're soul living in a body. This is
Absolutely.
just the vehicle. So, that's kind of where I go when people have questions about the afterlife. They weren't their body. Their consciousness, you can't kill energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed.
Correct.
So, it's just a different energy that doesn't have a shape to it anymore, like a tangible body anymore.
That's right. And consciousness, which is what spirit is, it's just disembodied consciousness. It's the one thing that science still can't explain. And there's a reason for that, because
Yeah.
it is a non-physical phenomenon. But you touched upon astrology, and can you believe we're like 41 minutes into this conversation already? It's like going so fast.
It's flying.
I love astrology, and I'll tell you why I believe it works, and it's very scientifically based. If you look at just what the moon can do, the
Yes.
moon not only influences the tides and influences the mind. That's scientifically proven that it
Mm-hmm.
influences people and behavior. Well, the other astral bodies can do the same thing. So why
Absolutely.
are we doubting this when there is thousands of years of practice to back it up?
Yeah, it's been around for thousands of years.
Thousands.
Exactly.
Right. So you agree with what I just said?
It's funny enough, out of all the things that, I have experienced, I was very skeptical about astrology um going in. I went to a class, actually I went to a reading in 2017, and this was right not long after like I had opened up like psychically and, mediumistically, and I went to an astrology reading. I was like, whatever, let's see what this is about. And I always never really gave it much cadence. And this woman read my chart as if she was reading me like a psychic. And I was like, there's no way that this planet alignment is telling my life story. Like she was going back into like childhood experiences and, like this is, you have this experience, with this, parent or this experience in school, or like you would have this experience, your appearance would look like this. And I'm like, "God, there's no way." So I started to get a little bit more curious, more curious, more curious. And then I took a class about a year or so later, and that really made sense to me. And I was like, okay, now I know why I have all these, health hangups and this and that. It's in my chart, annoyances, if you will, health annoyances, we'll call them. um,
I have plenty
um,
of those, trust me.
Oh my God, yeah. And it's probably the part of that is what makes us sensitive, but it's also a nuisance at the same time.
Absolutely.
Um, but that's where I started to really dive in. And then a little bit at a time, I started reading, I started studying my own chart, I started studying my husband's chart, my friends, my daughter when she was born.
You
And
have
it
a
just,
beautiful daughter, by the way.
thank
Oh
you.
my God,
Thank
she
you so
reminds me of my
much.
oldest when she was young. I just see her and I just like, oh, I miss those days.
Thank you so much.
It's
Thank
so
you.
true. My God, she's amazingly beautiful. But okay.
She's also someone too that that comes in with a natural inclination to
I
like
believe that.
do spirit work. It's in her chart. It's so crazy. And placements run in families. Like I can see like lineages of like traits run in families. And then when I see somebody who has a completely different chart, or if I see certain things start to kind of like move themselves out, that
Right.
means that that generational aspect has now been solved, dealt with, and now that karmic cycle's over for that family line.
Yeah. And I remember when we were at the Hollow Paracon and you were talking to Renee about astrology. I'm like, wow, she knows her stuff. I mean, you were like, wow. I mean, the depth of knowledge that you have is very impressive when it
Thank
comes
you.
to that.
It's
Yeah. And
not a big
that's
deal.
just like a 5 minute listening to you talk. You know, I can only imagine what you really know. So I think that's very cool. And totally, totally, totally believe it. I just do, you know. But anyway, I mean, we're good. We're at about 45 minutes, so we still have some time because I definitely want to get you to talk about where people can contact you and whatnot.
Sure.
Um, Now, do you have, besides what you do professionally, do you have any literature out or anything like that?
No, I'm like not the writer at all.
That's okay. No, there's
I'm
nothing
like the
wrong with
worst.
that.
I write things and I'm like, even text messages, I'm like, who would say this like this? It's backwards, but that's neither here nor there. Um, but yeah, I do, mostly what I'm doing right now in terms of like my own stuff, is, I do events locally and then the area, pretty much like, Northeast is mostly where I'm at.
Hmm.
And I do the paracons. I mostly do like metaphysical healing, psychic fairs, because that's really where the space that
Sure.
that's the space where I come from. The paranormal part I enjoy because I just find it fascinating and it interests me.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I have a website. It's readingsbydaniellet.com, where I do mediumship psychic readings, and I also do astrology readings. I do combinations. I do parties at people's homes. I do group gallery readings at events or people's homes. Now I'm doing astrology classes in shops and people's homes and people's workplaces. So it's
That's
cool.
great. What I want you to do is shoot me all of your links after the show,
Thank you.
and we're going to put them right down there, folks. Right beneath this video is going to have all of her links, so you won't have any reasons to not call her and schedule something.
Thank
You,
you. Thank you.
do you do phone readings?
I do. Most of my readings are over the phone. I can't, like, if somebody lives locally, like I could say, like, come here,
Right,
and I'll read for you in person. But like, when I'm not working an event or going to someone's home or working a party or a yoga studio or something, typically most of my readings are over the phone.
right. That's great. I'm looking, I'm seeing there's people watching this live. If you folks want to put anything in the chat box, she's not going to do any readings tonight, just letting you know. But if you have any questions about, what she's experienced or what it's like to be a psychic medium or anything like that, put it in the chat box right now, and we'll ask her. So, and you guys are watching, you might as well interact. So, just saying. So
What
that's very, very cool. Yeah. So, I mean, is there anything that you wanted to talk about?
I was going to ask you, what's your sign? Because usually us folk that are interested in this stuff, there are certain signs that are affiliated with that.
Well, I'm an Aries.
Okay, you're an Aries, but I wonder if you have like either some Scorpio or some Cancer placements in there, because that would probably like facilitate this interest.
I have no idea how that works.
I'll have to pull your chart on here one day, and
Okay, that'd be great.
we'll
So
do a step by step for it.
we'll get a group reading with you, me, and Renee, and
Yeah,
we'll hire you for
definitely.
that. That'd be fun. She would love that. She really liked you, and
She's got a water
she
chart too, I think.
yeah, she's very empathic, and if she likes you, it means you're a good person, because if you're not, she will know it.
I liked her. She was really cool.
Yeah,
Very, very empathic energy. Like, could
yep,
totally feel that.
yep, and not a mean bone in her body like you. So that's great.
Oh.
So, you know, um, so
Ask
yeah,
the people I live with.
well, look at everybody's got two
Right.
sides, It's just those people that have publicly show the one side more than the other that we would rather them not. But
Me, no, but would my husband and daughter say I'm like bossy? Maybe, yeah. Like I'd probably get that.
it's funny. That's funny. But yeah, no, that's really cool. And so where are you? Where are you located, by the way? You said the Northeast, but that's kind of large.
I'm in northern New Jersey, so I'm like maybe like 20 minutes away from the George Washington Bridge on like the New
Okay.
Jersey side. Yeah.
So when you get together with Larissa, you have a drive.
Yeah, I went out to her one time and she knows like I hate driving, but she doesn't like driving either. She's just better at it than I am. So when we plan things, we're either going on vacation, like and meeting at the location because I'm there for 7 days anyway.
Right.
Or it's an event, or she'll be like, I'm gonna be in New Jersey. Map how far this is from your house. Will you drive there? And I'm like, sure.
That's funny.
So yeah, driving's not my favorite, but I've been to her, she's like an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes from me.
Well, she's very close to where I live. So,
You're out there in
oh yeah.
Palmerton?
Well, no, I'm in Roseto, Pennsylvania, but it's not far from where I live.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I'm closer to New Jersey than she is, though, by about
Right.
30 minutes, honestly. I live right on the border of New Jersey. So yeah, I mean, we live in a very, very small town. About 8 years. It's been about 8 years now. We bought this house. It looks like a castle, which is why we call it Creepy Conversations from the Castle.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's old and it's creepy and it's haunted by Dominic. And he doesn't want us to find the money.
Okay.
I've been told by several psychics. The legend has it that he hid money in this house, and several psychics said, yes, it's there.
Interesting.
Yes.
Really?
And we've looked, but there are places, and it's weird because on our electrical panel on the fuse box, there's one circuit that says mystery room. I never figured out what it was.
Wow, that's so interesting. So how old is this location?
It's a 1927, I believe it was built. And
Like
it was
100 years.
during Prohibition. There's a secret room in the basement where they used to hide the hooch, they called it, which was the homemade alcohol. And there used to be it goes under the front sidewalk. And so there's a lot of history in the house. And we're always finding little nuggets in the house, things etched in the walls and everything in certain areas. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
That is really neat.
I always wanted an old house. So, and I got one, but it's cold in the winter. Let me tell you, I'm going through oil like crazy with this cold spell. Oh my God.
This is the coldest winter we've had in like decades.
I have.
Crazy.
I totally agree. I do have a question for you though. What happened to your New York accent?
You know, it's so funny. I don't hear it anymore either, but my husband, if you talk to him, he hears it.
I don't
So
hear it.
he's constantly making fun of me. Like he's constantly saying things like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't hear myself like that. I really don't hear myself like that.
That's
And also
awesome.
too, I've been living in New Jersey for like 10 years. So
Okay.
it's
right.
probably dialed back quite a bit, but if you ask him, he thinks I sound like my cousin Vinny, and I'm like,
So now do I sense Celtic in you at all?
yes.
I do.
Yes. My dad's side is Scottish Irish.
Knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Knew it.
Yeah.
Knew it. And it's not just the ginger. I knew it. I could just tell. And that's where you're getting a lot of these gifts.
It's, you know, you're probably right. I've never I believe it or not, I know very little about like the history going beyond like when my grandparents came here, because my grandparents were the first generation that came here as children. I know very little about their history on either side back in Italy or back in like Ireland, Scotland. But I do know that the Irish and the, you know, the Scottish, I mean, this is like, they're into fairies, they're into
It's ingrained.
leprechauns, all the things.
It's ingrained in your heritage for sure. And you said you're half Italian?
Yes.
Oh my God. That's it. That's like the trifecta right there. So yeah. Cause there's gypsy blood in you too now.
Right.
There you go. Wow. Okay. Well, this explains a lot. That's very cool. Well, we have like 5 minutes left. So I want to devote the remaining 5 minutes to where people can contact you again. Let's say it again, even though we're going to list the links. Let's just talk about it a little bit.
Sure. So I'll give you my Instagram handle. It's at psychic medium Danielle Taverna. That is my Instagram handle. If you Google my Facebook, it's just Danielle Taverna. My website is readingsbydaniellet.com. And that's pretty much where you can find me. Once you kind of go onto my website, it will give you that information, pretty much how to get to my Instagram, how to contact me via email. My phone number is even on there. Some people text me. So.
And they don't have to be in person to do a reading. Like you could do this over the phone. You could do this over the computer.
Yeah, I do the phone typically. Like, what will happen is they'll go on my website, they'll book their reading. You can put all of your information in. And then on the day of your reading, I will call you on the phone number that you left. And we'll just rock and roll from there.
That's great. So folks, I just want to let you know, I'm very discerning and I do not recommend a lot of people. I'm recommending Danielle.
Thank
So
you.
we have 30,000 subscribers. I want to see at least 10,000 of you call her. Okay. At least. Okay. Come on. Let's flood her phones and
Thank
book
you.
some appointments here. All right. She's either going to love me or she's going to hate me.
I'm very grateful. No, really, thank you for having me on the show. This was really cool. This was awesome. And it was interesting. It's interesting to learn about your house too. That's cool.
It is. It is. It is. You know, sometimes I post pictures of the house on Facebook. It's a really beautiful house. It's all imported Italian brick all the way around, and it's you know, Dominic who built it, who's still around. I'm telling you, he's a pretty interesting guy. Pretty interesting guy. But yeah, no. See, I told you this was going to be. You were going to be in friendly waters here.
Cool. It's very cool.
You know, I told you that before the show, that you had nothing to worry about that, because I believe, and like I said, even though I'm a paranormal investigator and I do a lot of scientifically based investigations, there's a special part in my heart for real psychic mediums, because as I wrote about in my books, they're the ones, I mean, I've had mind-blowing experiences with one in particular, which brought me back to the paranormal, because I've been doing it since 89, and then I took a hiatus and started doing it again because of a message from my father through a psychic medium that nobody could have known. That's cool. But I've related that on this show a million times, so I'm not going to bore my listeners with it again. But yeah, no, this has been great. And even though there is nothing creepy about you and nothing creepy about your booth and your banner, it's like it's very love and light.
I like pink and glitter.
But we still got a good dose of creepiness in this conversation.
Yes.
And I like that. That's really, I mean, I know that's what people sign up for when they watch this. So, and you're just so cool, because you just go with the flow. You really are, you know.
So are you. I love you and Renee. You guys are great. You're awesome people. You're authentic people, and I'm grateful that you guys had me and invited me on the show. So that's cool. Thank you.
Oh, the honor is mine. I mean, seriously. I mean, Renee's wasn't available, but I wanted her to come on the show with me, because you were on. But she'll definitely be watching for sure. And like I said, we are going to hire you for a reading. It's just we got to get the timing down. But I think it's been great. So we have literally 2 minutes. We're going to stop this at 60 minutes exactly. Wow, this has been a great conversation. Is there any parting words for people that are watching?
You know, I think that everybody has the capability to build upon their intuition and their ability to connect. So if this is something that interests you, I think it is important to kind of like pay attention to the signs, get quiet, meditate if you can, because I really do think that we all have the capability to connect intuitively, or even as a medium. You know, we all have some level of ability to do this work. So I know a lot of people who probably watch this have an interest, and I definitely encourage people to explore that.
And you can help them do that if they call you and book an appointment. You can maybe lead them in the right direction.
Yeah, I was doing mentorships for a little bit there. For like not last year, but the year before and the year before that, I was doing mentorships for a little bit there, and then my schedule got kind of tied up with you know, classes and groups and things like that. But I would take on at least one student per quarter.
Okay.
I could probably handle one person at a time.
Are you going to be that lucky person?
Oh my gosh, yeah. But there's some really amazing people out there that I've met via you know, the internet, who have told me they have gifts, and I was like, explore it. If you know you have it, you have it.
Wonderful. And we're going to leave it right there. Danielle Taverna, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap it up. Once again, Danielle's information is going to be below. You know, just give me a day or two. We'll get it to you. And contact her. If you've ever had an interest in getting a reading from the real deal, now's your chance. So this is Bobby J. Gallo, Creepy Conversations from the Castle with Danielle Taverna. And thanks for watching, folks.